Welcome to the winter sports season premiere of This Week in Indian Hill Braves Athletics here on IndianHillBraves.org and ESP Media powered by Sidearm Sports. I'm Jason Griefer. We're happy to welcome back Indian Hill AD Brian Phelps. Brian, good to see you once again. Very interesting time, maybe for you more so than anybody else, because your winter sports season just started about a week ago. You got the okay to go ahead and start the winter season. So I want to take us behind the scenes there, what the day-to-day operations have been like in between the fall season and the start of the winter season, and how did you go about preparing to start the winter sports season?
Yeah, well, first of all, great to see you guys. Glad to be back. I'm glad that we're back to athletics. It
Yeah.
feels pretty normal. It's going to be a crazy busy January and February, just trying to get as many events in as possible. When we started basketball as normal, kind of like everyone else. We got some scrimmages under our belt and practicing and those kinds of things. And it's been tough for our community. We've our board is their job is to make the best decisions possible for our families and our community and keeping our kids safe. And the board decided, along with our superintendent and other key personnel, that based on the numbers, this is what we needed to do at this time. And schools closing and opening and doing that, and I think it was just, we're going to sit tight for a little bit, hope that some of this passes, try to get back as healthy as possible. So, tough decisions all around. None of that stuff is easy, I know, but we were shut down for a little bit. And then we got a little bit of, a few days a week, couple days a week practicing in small pods and, more mask wearing than even normal. And then last Wednesday, we got the go ahead that we could start back to practice, and we had our first competitions this weekend. So all in all, we're pretty healthy. We're glad to be back,
Yeah.
even though it was a tough December. We understand, and hopefully we can stay healthy throughout the rest of the winter season.
And get a full winter sports season in so much as we can here, and get to enjoy not only that, and then this is just a bonus here, get to talk about it here on the podcast as well. And since the winter sports season just started a week ago and over the weekend, today's episode is going to be kind of more of a season preview of what to expect coming in, maybe more so than the X's and O's and the highlights. And we'll get into more of that as we go along during the season. But let's start first in the pool, and we're going to start with your boys swim team. They've had control of the league the last number of years, won the league 4 years in a row, and so you're just getting going this season. We're already seeing low times being put up by multiple guys in different distances in the pool over this past weekend. And the thing that's interesting to me in seeing those results come in is the balance that you have between veterans and youth, that you've got upperclassmen and then the underclassmen are coming in right behind and putting up really nice results. Obviously, you're seeing this team operate for the first time here since you've joined up with Indian Hill. How have you seen this team operate since you've come in and since they've gotten going? And what have you learned about them that's made you kind of understand, like, okay, now I understand why they've been so good the last 4 years?
Yeah, right. Well, it starts with, we have an awesome head coach in Matt Harrison, and our diving coach Ray Noble is awesome, and he helps out other schools as well. And Susan Burns, even with our middle school program. I mean, I think that we have a true program, and I think that about a lot of things that we do here. But our kids are invested. It's important to them. It's not just a winter Indian Hill season. They're kicking butt in the off season and with the club, and swimming in general is just different.
Mm-hmm.
You have a majority of your kids that aren't just swimming for Indian Hill, but they're getting their time in all year with their club. And I think that's probably a difference in most of our sports. Some of our kids were able to train because they weren't with Indian Hill and we're ready to go. And it showed in the first meet. We're already, a handful of top 10 in the state kind of times in events. And you said it right. We have a good mix of some veteran leadership and some young kids. And my last school, I was able to watch Indian Hill swim. This isn't a new phenomenon. It's always been a staple program for our school, but
Yeah.
we expect nothing more than being right there at the end and seeing if we can have a lot of success like we have, fairly recently.
Over on the
Very recent.
on the girls side, in terms of league play, Mariemont's been the standard bearer in the league. They've won the league title 7 years straight, 8 of the last 9. So obviously, everybody's looking at them as the benchmark in the league, and everybody's got to elevate themselves up to that level. And your team is seemingly, at least early on, we still got a long ways to go. That they're showing that potential right there. I mean, you look early on, the team overall has the top time in the league in the 200 yard medley, beating Marymount by a second there. The 200-yard freestyle as a team, you're ahead of Marymount there in terms of time. Obviously, a long way to go in the season. One of the things I'm interested to see with this team is a lot of freshmen coming in right away and putting up these times. And you wonder sometimes with freshmen, how are they able to do that? Are they too young to understand that maybe they shouldn't be putting up these good of times early on, that kind of youthful exuberance, if you will? It's been impressive to see those times come in. How fun is that for you to see the youngsters come in, and then also for them to see their hard work pay off so quickly?
Well, one of the nicest things about that is you have a future for the next few years, and it's
Yep.
not a one and done kind of thing. So it's always exciting when you have young kids already contributing at a top level, and that just shows that we should be set up for years to come as well. And it's great. Like I said, Matt Harrison, our coach, just kids want to swim for him. He's got such a great attitude about the sport, so passionate. And I think that trickles right down to the kids. It helps kids, want to give their best, and not only the individual effort, but also as a team effort. So we're in a really good spot with swimming, both with the boys and girls side.
And it's a long way to go. But again, strong results early, as you said, with the boys, some top 10 times in the state already. No reason to think they can't continue that. And the same thing with the girls. If they can continue on, you can certainly give Marymount a run for their money and challenge them for the league title. Let's move on here. And a sport that's just kind of getting going in Indian Hill. We were talking about this before we started recording this. Gymnastics getting going in Indian Hill. And one young lady want to get a special recognition to is Raylan Coward, who competed at the CD Cup over the weekend. A lot of top teams from Southwest Ohio there, a lot of top individual gymnasts there in that meet. And she goes and finishes third overall. And I'll go through each of the individual events there. Finishes second on the bars, third on the beam, fifth on the vault, and 13th on the floor. That's a pretty darn good showing at the CD Cup.
Yeah, that's right. And, we've got to say thanks to Cincinnati Country Day with that. She trains with them. Steve Connor, who's, the ultimate professional, is really guiding her. We don't technically have gymnastics. I know the Cowherd family, just a great family. And she's been in the club world, the private world with gymnastics, and just wanted to try to make this work, wanted to compete at the high school level and for Indian Hill. So we got a little creative and made it work. So it's a partnership to kind of give her the opportunity to do that. And she's really good. And it's going to be a lot of fun to see how it plays out for her. And hopefully we're making a state run in gymnastics, and it's all good at the end of the year.
How unique is that for you as an athletic director when you have somebody like this who comes to you and says, can we find a way to make this work where I can compete at the high school level and compete for Indian Hill, even if I have to train with elsewhere?
Yeah, right. So, we're in this job to kind of make it the best experience for kids.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can do that, that's great. It doesn't always work. There's a lot of factors. Some of those are fun. Some of that is practice facilities. Some of that, coaching, all that kind of stuff. So, when they proposed it, it was, okay, let's figure it out. If we can make it work, absolutely, we will. And just kind of back to that partnership, she has a place to train. She has a coach to coach her. Some of the uniform and that kind of stuff. We'll just figure that kind of stuff out. That's the easy stuff. But when you can mark off the tough hurdles to make it work for a student athlete, we're going to do it. We're going to do it every single time that we can. But like I said, there's times that as much as I would love to add something, because we have a group of kids that are interested, we just can't always make it work. But thankful that we were able to make it work for Raylan and the Coward family, and she's competing representing Indian Hill.
and doing a very good job through a very very challenging CD Cup, finishing third overall. That's nothing to shake a stick about there for sure. A couple of other sports that are kind of emerging sports in Indian Hill. I know you wanted to touch base on here on the season premiere today. Both the cheerleading and indoor track. Take us through those.
Yeah, so our cheerleaders performed very well, and we're winners of a regional meet, qualified them for Disney and in the spring for nationals, and hopefully we can pull that off. There's not a date set, and there's still restrictions all over the place, but here with certain field trips and overnight stays. So I know they are hoping that they can participate. But it was a good showing. Our kids are dedicated to the sport. Our coach does a really nice job leading them. So they compete and in whatever type of competitions they can around the city and the region. And then indoor track, our track and cross country coach, Sue Savage, will continue to lead a group of kids with indoor track, and they have a few meets scheduled and really just got the go ahead with that as well. They haven't practiced or anything like that yet, but or just starting to now. But they'll get the chance to compete in a couple competitions and get ready for the spring track season.
When you see a sport like indoor track start to come together, obviously you think to how it would be under a normal world where you're piling a ton of runners into a closed facility and everybody's all over the place run these times and distances. How do you anticipate that challenge being once you get into these meets of trying to compete, but also under a scenario where it's basically you show up, you race, you go home? It's that type of thing.
That's exactly right. That it just looks different. That it might mean a couple of buses going to events, and when kids are finished, they go home, either whether it's with a parent or we're taking small groups there in sections. And it's not the normal type of we're all going to be in our same as swimming, really kind of our huddle and hang out all day. It's
Yeah.
If you're finished, it's probably time for you to go. And those are the kind of hurdles that we're all facing and we're all kind of figuring out together. But the great thing with our coach, with Sue, Coach Savage, is she's such a professional, and that will be, that will be in the front of her mind and making sure our kids are participating safely and figuring that out. That's one that I don't have to worry about kind of pushing the envelope. That's going to be the first priority for her every single time. So we're going to do the best we can. We're going to make it work the best we can and probably learn a little bit as we go. And again, just try to make it the best experience for our kids as we can.
How big of a luxury is it for you to have someone like Coach Savage to where you can turn the keys to her and you don't have to worry about what's going on within the program. You don't have to micromanage. You don't have to check in, multiple times a day saying, are you doing this? Or are you doing that? How much easier does it make it for you?
Yeah, it's invaluable. I mean, schools in general, I think that the concept of having the teacher coach and the coaches in the building, it's just getting tougher and tougher. And there's good reasons for that. But she's one of those veterans that, she is a top quality teacher for a long time and a top quality coach and connects with the kids. And it's the perfect scenario. When you can get those, you've hit a home run, and she's as good as it gets, and I just so appreciate that she's here and provides the experience that she does.
It can be a tough thing to try to navigate those waters there, trying to negotiate that and the logistics and all that. That's going to be a challenge going forward for indoor track for sure. Another sport that I'm looking at could potentially be a big logistical challenge is your wrestling team. They've won the league the last 3 years after Reading had owned it seemingly for 2 decades, but you've kind of taken that mantle now. And I'm looking at this, and to me anyway, and I don't know how you feel. I'll get your thoughts on this as well. This seems like maybe the most difficult sport to try to pull a full season off because you can't social distance when you're on the mat. You can't just stand 6 feet away and kind of say, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and basically do air wrestling. You can't do that. So how do you envision that playing out this year? And how are your wrestlers going about preparing for this season, knowing that there is a real possibility of some starts and stops?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And our coach, Nate Eiger, has been extremely cautious. We've waited to start practicing. His schedule is pretty minimal. The thinking, we're basically wrestling on the weekends at smaller invitationals. Our league meet is not going to happen. It
Yeah.
looks a lot different than, it has in the years past. All with the schedule is all set up to, if we had an issue, our last meet, we're still going to be outside of that 14-day, quarantine period for when the tournament comes. So we're trying to figure out how to best compete throughout the season and be ready and healthy come tournament time. So it is a less is more mentality, no doubt. And kind of like I said with Sue, Nate is another coach that's in the building. He's being very cautious to keep our kids as healthy as possible and really being thoughtful about how practices look, how long they go, what meets we compete in. We're actually hosting a meet coming up this Saturday, and it's a quad meet, and it's visiting fans aren't going to be allowed, but we're live streaming, and we kind of have each team in a quadrant of the bleachers so they can be spread out. It's all those logistics that we're dealing with and really kind of learning as we go, thinking through every single event. And we just hope that it's the best experience we can provide. And it might not be. And,
Yeah.
when it comes to parents seeing the kids, but at least we kind of have, the live stream option. And we're finding ways to make sure our kids can compete. And if that continues to be the foundation of what we're trying to do, give our kids the opportunity to compete, then that means we have to sacrifice some of the other luxuries that we're used to.
Mm-hmm. And looking at this as a quad this coming Saturday, we hear other schools just doing duels, some doing tries. You're doing a quad here. Do you look at this, since it's early in the season, for your athletic department as sort of a trial run to see if you can pull off a quad, and maybe down the road and maybe the end of January, February, or not, you can call the teams and say, hey, we can host a quad here. We have all the procedures in place. It can be done here. We ran it before and went off without a hitch.
Yeah, well, with our spacing in our gym, we feel very comfortable we can host 4 teams. And, the thing is, if you only have duels, when you're not a super large program, you might not have anybody for your kid to wrestle. So, we have quads to make sure everybody has a match. It's not going to be, huge schools with tons of wrestlers.
Sure.
We figured we could manage the number of kids with the number of teams to just make sure it's everyone's getting appropriate matches. So, it's kind of a test. And then we're going to try to do a middle school meet similarly later in the month. But we're going to see how this goes. We feel like we can manage it effectively, but I probably won't know until Saturday afternoon, once it's all over.
And that's the thing to think about too for folks who are outside of the athletic department operations, is that there's no playbook for this. So you just kind of have to kind of see how it goes at that point. Let's move on to the hardwood, and let's talk about boys basketball. They're finally getting ready to get going. After a 13-10 season a year ago. You said earlier in the podcast that they were having scrimmages. They were able to practice and what have you. How have they looked in that sort of extended training camp, and how excited are they to finally be able to get to a point where they can see somebody wearing a different colored jersey across from them?
Well, I'll answer the last first. They're extremely excited to be back. How they look is anybody's guess. I think when we started and we had some kind of that normal flow and got some scrimmages in, we're excited. Like, all right, this should be a great year. There's been stoppages, it's tough to know. We've done the best that we can. We've been practicing for less than a week. And that's hard on any team. And the fact is, we're going into our first game tonight for the boys. And there are teams that have played 10 games already, 11 games already. And some of those teams are in our league. And we just have to accept the fact our season starts today.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of like the Ohio State theory. Maybe we're fresher with only 7 games in. Maybe we're fresher with no games in at this point. But we just have to look at the long kind of haul of this. We're gonna get as many league games in as we can. We have 13 of our 16 scheduled. We're not going to have a full 22 game season with boys basketball for sure. But at the end of our regular season, we're going to hope that we've found some success. We're clicking. on all cylinders at the right time and ready to make a good tournament run. And like everybody else in all of that, we're trying to stay healthy too. So, we're practicing. Varsity's not around the JV team in case the JV team has those are all the kinds of things that we have to be extra cautious and mindful of. And the reality is teams have stoppages all the time, and we may come up to that. We'll deal with it when we do, and we're going to play as much of a season as we can.
Over on the girls' side, they've gotten a couple of games in already. The opener was a comfortable win over Deer Park, so you now have won 21 straight in the CHL. You're going for the three-peat this year. Want to focus on one of your players in particular, your star, Ella Riggs, and she was first-team All-League last year, a season opener against Deer Park. She goes for 28 points. Obviously, everybody in the league knows how good she is, and for non-conference teams you may be able to schedule, they're going to find out how good she is going forward. But she doesn't have Maddie Antonucci alongside of her anymore, and I'm sure you saw and know how good Maddie was, and Maddie Antonucci has since graduated. So now more of that focus is going to go on to Ella Riggs, and it also more goes on the other players to try and fill that void as well. How is she looking at that as far as embracing that responsibility to know I'm the alpha on this team at this point? Everybody's going to be gunning for me. And how is she approaching this year with that in mind?
Yeah, she's an athlete. She's a basketball player. She's excited to be back on the court and just wants to play, whether it's, a league game that we've had some success with in the past, or, a top Division I team that we're trying to schedule to see, test ourselves the best that we can. So yeah, she definitely knows that. We have a good balance, a couple seniors that are nice, solid players and provide good leadership. And, she's a junior, and a couple freshmen that are starting, and, we'll play a handful of girls as well. But she needs to lead the team, especially from a, scoring standpoint and leadership standpoint and all that kind of stuff. But she's a player, and I know that, she's going to take it head on, and she's going to do the best she can every single game. And she's going to have some tough matchups. And as you said, people will know that she's our number one threat, and she doesn't have Maddie to kind of, be that balance. But we have some other kids that will step up and play well. And if you focus only on Ella, then some of our other kids are going to hurt you. So, I respect our coaches kind of thinking and scheduling. She wants to play some really good teams, even knowing going in that that's going to be really hard for us to compete sometimes. But it's about preparing our kids for the tournament, and we'll have a good balance in our league and a good balance outside of our league. And come tournament time, we hope to be ready. We hope to be CHL champs at the end of the regular season. We'll just see how that all goes.
Yeah, and that's the thing people sometimes forget is you'll ask, why do you schedule so tough? And you think about it, it's like, what good does it do to schedule a team you're going to beat by 50? How does that help prepare you for the state tournament? Yes, it's nice to get the win, get everybody playing time, feel good about it, but scheduling those tough teams can only help you down the road, no matter the result at that point. But nevertheless, just getting started there, and they've certainly looked like they've got a good shot to repeat as league champs there. Lastly, before I let you go, kind of circle back to what we talked about at the top of the program here today, and kind of how everything has gone for you and your staff. We've talked here and back in the fall how it's been for the coaches and for the kids, for the student athletes across all spectrum of sport at Indian Hill. I'm wondering how the community support has been around you now that they've sort of gotten used to how things are. I know early in the fall, there's going to be a lot of frustration because, people want to be there. They want to support their friends. They want to support their family. The students want to be there supporting their classmates and whatnot. And that's had to have been limited at throughout the seasons thus far. How has the Indian Hill community rallied around this team as we're now into the winter season?
Yeah, you might want to ask me at the end of the winter. The fact is, it's like anything. 90% are unbelievable. They're awesome. Totally get it. Whatever we can do, and the 5%ers or 10%ers, I understand their frustration. That they want to be at the game. They want their kid to have a full season. For some of the kids, they have other type of things on the line, whether it's the collegiate level aspirations and this is hurting that, or, maybe it's a group of senior parents that the senior class can't be here for big games. And I agree with every single one of those frustrations. I get it. But all in all, it's been really good support. We have a great community. They get it. Even when they're frustrated, they get it. And for me personally, they've been super supportive. I think that just kind of not knowing all the information makes it tough.
Yeah.
And it's easy, sometimes for rumors to kind of get around of how things are going or how we're deciding things. And the fact is, we're trying to make the best decision for kids 100% of the time. And, it's just hard to communicate how that looks sometimes. But I will say in my, whatever this is, 5 months that I've been here, super excited to be here. It's a great fit for me. I hope the district and the community feels, it the same the other way. We will see, kind of thing. But, it's, you just have to do this job not worrying about who's upset all the time, because there's always going to be somebody upset about something.
Right.
If I and my staff can make the decisions that are best for kids, that we believe are best for kids, I can sleep at night. And, I think that's just the way that you have to approach it. And we're just trying to get through this school year the best that we can. Just like everybody else. This isn't an Indian Hill issue. We know that, but we're just trying to do the best we can.
And it's one of the more selfless professions you can work in, doing what you do, and you and your staff have obviously done a great job to this point during this crazy time. And we certainly appreciate you, Brian, taking some time here to talk to us about it today. And we're looking forward to diving more into the individual stars and teams as we go along in the winter sports season.
Yeah, looking forward to it too. And again, I feel like I say it all the time. You guys do awesome. Thanks for this time and getting our message out there. And I'll look forward to next week.
That is Athletic Director Brian Phelps of Indian Hill High School joining us for the season premiere of This Week in Indian Hill Braves Athletics on IndianHillBraves.org and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.